Welcome to the SaturdayMP Show, episode number 57, being recorded mostly live, November 21st, 2024. This is a show about shipping secure, high-quality software faster, and we usually do that through like live coding examples, well, mostly live coding examples, but today we're going to do it by presentation, actually. This is a presentation I'm giving tonight at the Edmonton .NET Users Group. So yeah, stick around and we'll see if this see if I get this presentation done in time. Before we jump into that, my name is Chris. I'm your host today and always. But if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to any videos you'd like me to make in the future about any topics or technology or some sort of software thing, send me an email to ask@SaturdayMP.com, ask@SaturdA. Oh, there's a typo in there. There we go. Saturday. That was embarrassing. Ask@Saturday. Yeah, mostly live. Ask@SaturdayMP.com. Or just leave some comments if you're watching this on YouTube below. So, all right. So today we're just going to, like I said before, we're going to go into, I'm going to be practicing a presentation I'm giving tonight. And there's two reasons I like to record these. Is one the practice, because I want to make sure, I want to try and get this done within 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Just leave some time for people to ask questions and stuff at the end. So that's what this presentation is for. I kind of practice it offline every once in a while, like a little bit, but I find these videos are really good at, I force myself to do these videos. If you look back, there's some other ones I did of really making me practice it and checking my timelines and stuff. So I really appreciate watching me practice, and I hope you find it interesting as well. The second reason I like recording them is for if people miss the presentation or if they want to go back and look at it at a later date. They're like, oh, what did Chris talk about? I can just point them to the YouTube video. So, all right. So today we're gonna it's a presentation about refactoring. We're going to be refactoring the famous Gilded Rose Kata. So I'll get some more into that in a minute. I think we could just jump right in. Oh, I did have this open here. So this is the Edmonton .NET Users Group. So again, this is presenting today. So if you happen to be in, I don't know if I'll publish this today. If I get this out the door, I'm going to be watching just before, race over to the Idlewild Library and check me out live there. That's actually me in the top right there. And if not, if you're watching this later, thank you for watching. So yeah, and thanks to EDMUG, Edmonton .NET Users Group, for allowing me to present. I really appreciate it. Yeah, well, I guess if you happen to be in Edmonton too, and you're a .NET user, .NET developer, you should join the EDMUG Users Group. All right. So let's just kind of jump right into this presentation. So if you want to follow along for the presentation, you can go to SaturdayMP examples on GitHub and a refactoring tale. And here you will find the repository that we're going to use for this presentation. And it's basically not really a fork, where I just grabbed the C# version of the Gilded Rose Kata. Excuse me, because this was for the .NET Users Group. So, and it's just easier to have a repository with just the C# version in it. So you can find everything here. So feel free to pause the video and go download those. The other thing to note is this is taken from the Gilded Rose Kata, which is here. So if you're watching this and you're not a .NET developer, but you kind of like refactoring, but your language is like Python or something like that, you can go to Emily Bosch. I think that's how you say it, Bosch. And there you can find the same kind of refactoring kata in many different languages: Java, C#, C++, Dart. I'm not even sure what Dart is. Go, all these languages I've never even heard of. So if you like it, go there and check it out. And there's even more of a description about what the kata is. So So yeah, go here. You can download if you want to follow in C#. If you want to follow in a different language, go to the actual Gilded Rose Kata and grab the kata in the language of your choice. Okay, so we can put this into slideshow mode now here. All right, so about me, I guess maybe I'll do this part for the video. For those that maybe don't know, I'm a one-person consulting shop called Saturday Morning Productions, based in Edmonton, Alberta. But I do pretty much all my work nowadays is remote in Canada and the States. I never had the opportunity to work directly with someone overseas, but as a subcontractor I have. Like overseas, I mean like, in Europe or something like that. So yeah, if you want to find out more information about something I do, go to SaturdayMP.com. I also host the weekly dev chat and the Legacy Code Rocks, both of which are virtual chats. Just real casual kind of coffee chats that anyone, including yourself, is welcome to join. So you can just Google Weekly Dev Chat or Legacy Code Rocks, and you'll be able to find information about both of them. Both of them are virtual chats. And yeah, it would be great if you could join us. Weekly Dev Chat is mostly people around Edmonton, but we're hoping to expand that. And Legacy Code Rocks is mostly people in the States. But we get a couple of Europeans as well. And again, looking to expand both. So come join us. And if you ever see me online, like I'm on Slack and LinkedIn, like these are some of the Slacks that I'm active in: Dev Edmonton Slack, the Legacy Code Rocks, YEGSEC, which is a local security group. YEG is the Edmonton airport. And if you're ever looking for me and you see this picture, that's me. All right. So what is the Gilded Rose Kata? For those who don't know, a kata is basically like a practice. And I don't know if it originated in martial arts, but the first time I ever heard about it was in martial arts, where in martial arts, at least, a kata is just like you're practicing your kicks, your punches, kind of your other blocks, almost a little bit like a dance, like this, like kind of a sequence of them. And it's not meant to mimic like a real fight, like sparring or anything, but just kind of a nice way to practice all your moves. And sometimes they look really cool. And so, yeah, it's just a way to practice. And that is something that these code katas is for practicing, which is something I think a lot of us developers don't do. Like, I'm extremely guilty of it too. Like, when's the last time you just coded? Like, probably university was the last time you did like an assignment or anything close to a code kata. University, school, or whatever school you learned software development in. Most of us don't do it in regular days, which is kind of a shame. Like, I think it's something I probably should do more. Probably all of us should do more. If you look at like athletes or musicians or something, they're practicing all the time. Whereas developers, we don't really practice, or we do practice. We practice on live code. We practice in the field. So the Gilded Rose Kata is based on World of Warcraft. The person who really originally created it, Terry Hughes, I guess, must have been a fan. I don't know much about Terry Hughes, but must have been a fan of World of Warcraft because there's a lot of references to it. Hence this AI generated image here that looks like that, and the kind of the version that I'm using today was kind of Emily took over the Gilded Rose, or forked it basically, and then she started adding all the other languages and kind of spruced it up a little bit. So I think that's the version that most people are familiar with these days, is the one by Emily. So and then you can kind of see the Gilded, it's a refactoring kata, so the code is kind of ugly. You can see some of the code here that we'll see actually in it. It's just really nested statement. It's got inverted aged brie, converted checks, and all this stuff. It's kind of a gnarly little function. It kind of, Gilded Rose is kind of cool. It's just like a supposedly simple function, but it actually gets pretty gross. So that's what the Gilded Rose Kata is. And there's also other refactoring katas. You could just go search for them and find them. So what is refactoring, for those that don't know? Kind of the official definition is changing existing source code without changing its external behavior. The other way I like to put it is you make changes to a piece of software, or like an API or anything like that, and your end users, whether they're developers or actual customers or something, don't notice any changes to what you've done. Like they shouldn't notice anything different, even if you've maybe you've moved a bunch of files around, you've renamed stuff, but for all intents and purposes, like we treat the software as a black box. Nobody has noticed any changes whatsoever. So that's what we kind of define as refactoring. And now, why would you want to refactor? There's kind of two main reasons, usually for me. And the first reason is the code is really hard to understand. So sometimes I'll refactor a piece of software, like rename things, move stuff around, extract methods and stuff like that, because the logic is really hard to understand, and I really need to understand what's going on in the code, like maybe the documentation is lacking or something like that. The second reason is because you need to add a new feature, and the existing code, it makes it really hard to add this new feature. It makes it hard to figure out what's going on. That's kind of what we'll see with the Gilded Rose, is we have to add a new feature to the to this piece of software, and it's really hard to add to it. So so those are the two things. And I got a picture here on the left. You can see, where's my mouse? There it is. So you can see the book here. So Martin Fowler, I'm pretty sure he didn't invent refactoring, but he kind of really made it popular with his book, Refactoring book. This is the second edition. I don't think you can get the first. I do have the first edition, but I don't think you can get it anymore. But it's got it's like a recipe. It basically explains refactoring, why you should do it, blah, blah, blah. But it also has recipes on how to refactor. So like, how would you actually rename a method safely in your source code? Or if you wanted to move a block of code to its own method, how would you go about doing that? And so it has the kind of recipes, like basically steps, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that. And it's a great book to read. I don't think we'll be doing much manual refactoring during this presentation. It's going to be mostly the IDE. We'll use tools, so we're going to be using a JetBrains Rider IDE, which has a lot of built-in refactorings that'll move functions and rename methods and stuff for us. But I think the book is still really good. I highly recommend people read it. Now, this isn't part of the Gilded Rose about when to refactor, but a lot of times you can't just, because we're not making any outside changes to the application, you can't just willy-nilly make changes to it. Or because we're not making outside changes, you can't, like no business owner or your boss or anything is not going to just let you refactor, because it's not, as far as they can tell, not adding any value. Like the customers won't notice anything, like the people that pay you money won't notice anything. So when you do go to refactor, say you get a new application, a good way to figure out what parts of it might need to be refactored or how much time you should spend refactoring them is using a tool called git churn. It's not really like a tool, but there's a script that you can run that will tell you how often a file has changed, and that's what we'll call churn. So if a file has changed a lot, it has high churn. If it hasn't changed that much, it's got low churn. And you can run it using, say, like the script below, and it'll give you a list of all the files in the repository and how often they've changed. And you can also edit this script to like add days, and like if you just wanted the last 3 months or 6 months or a year, like what files have recently changed, you can update that script. If you follow the link there, there's a nice, you can actually have a built-in Git script that'll do this for you. And again, this is a useful tool. If management comes and says, why do you want to refactor this? You can show them like this is a big complicated file that changes a lot. There's a lot of developers in there. I think it's worth the time to refactor it. On the converse side, if someone says they want to refactor something, but you go look at the git churn and nobody's touched that file for like a year, or maybe there's been like one minor change to it in the last 6 months, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any changes to it, or if there is, it's another minor change, then it's probably not worth it to refactor it. Like just make the minor change and get on with life. Spending 2 weeks refactoring this file that nobody's going to touch, that works, and nobody's going to touch it again for another like year or two. Like it's a big waste of time. So yeah, use churn to figure out what you should reformat and what you shouldn't. It's just kind of, this is a little outside the scope, but I think this is super useful. Something that I learned from my friends when I worked with Corgi Bytes there, and I think it's a really useful tool. All right, so let's get into the demo. So there's a couple assumptions I've made for this. We'll go over the requirements in a second, but for the Gilded Rose, there is a class, an item class. And the requirements say you can't edit that class. I kind of assume that means you can't edit or inherit from it. You might find other videos online where people do edit that class. You know, I don't know, it's your kata. do what you want with it. But in this case, we're going to assume we can't edit it. Maybe it comes from a database, maybe it's an API call or like a code library that we don't have any access to. It's like a sealed class in a code library, so we'll treat it like that. I'm also going to assume that I have a very short timeline for adding this new feature, which is conjured manna cakes. So the requirements for the Gilded Rose, I guess I haven't gone over that, but the Gilded Rose is basically an inn that also sells goods, and our job is to go in. So they have a system that keeps track of how the quality of these goods, and the quality will decrease for most of the goods as time goes on. And we want to add a new item or a new good to the system called conjured manna cakes. And I'm assuming this needs to be done pretty quickly, which has been my experience with actual real clients, is they don't call you and be like, hey, in 6 months, we really want to add a new feature. You know, can you spend like, or like, you know, 2 months, I guess. Can you just spend like a month refactoring and then a month just adding this new feature or something like that? That's like, no. They're like, hey, we want to add this by the end of this week, or hey, we want to add this in like 2 weeks. This, you know, this feature has to go live. So you don't have time to refactor everything in the method or go through all the logic. So I'm going to treat it like that. I'm going to go through how kind of I would assume we need conjured manna cakes in the new system quickly, how we would go about doing that. And it would kind of involves not refactoring as much as other demonstrations have done, but we're just kind of leave working code, just leave it as is. But that said, I do always try to follow the camping rule, or, you know, the Boy Scouts Girl Guides rule, where if you're out camping and you're at a campsite, you leave it at least as good as you found it, and hopefully even better. So if you showed up there and there's a little bit of garbage already, you've cleaned it up. You make sure you don't leave any garbage behind. You know, you just leave things nicer than when you found them, which is a good rule, not even for camping, but just just life in general. Wherever you go, try to leave things better than when you found them. Like, leave people slightly happier. Yeah, leave things a little better. And finally, this is just one of many ways to refactor this kata. You can Google and find many write-ups on it and many videos, so I highly recommend you do that, and you'll find other ways. And you can compare and contrast it. The things I do might not be the same that you would do. And I think that's one of the reasons for this kata's popularity is people kind of, I don't know, fight's the right word, but debate about the proper ways to refactor it and when you should stop refactoring and stuff like that. So, all right, let's jump into the kata here. Okay, so I guess first things first, let's show the requirements here. So again, this is just a kata, but I kind of treat it as a semi-realistic request from a customer. They have a system in place that updates their inventory. This first paragraph is, yeah, I guess it's kind of important. So they have a system. They sell things that degrade in quality as they approach the date they have to sell them by. So they almost like to have an expiry date. They already have an existing inventory system, and our task is to add new features to the system. So all items in there have a sell-in value and a quality value. And as the sell-in value goes down, so does the sell-in quality for most items. So these will go down. If the quality will degrade twice as fast once the sell-by date. So if an expired product will sell faster, quality can never be negative. So there's a couple special cases. Of course there is. Brie increases in quality. You know, like good moldy cheese gets better. I said age, quality can never be more than 50. And quality, I don't know what that means, like the value, like how much you'd sell it for. It's just an arbitrary abstract value. Sulfurous, doesn't decrease in quality, so we don't care about the sell date for that thing. And these backstage passes, kind of like last minute deals, they get really more valuable when it's closer to the date, but then once the date passes, they're basically worth nothing. So, and then our job is to add this conjured items, which degrade twice as fast as normal items. And this actually, one thing to note is it says it lowers the values, but it doesn't say by how much. I'm assuming 1, but who knows? We'll have to look at the code for that. So that'll be part of what we'll do is we'll have to do a little bit of code reading and write some tests to figure out what we think a normal item degrades by, and then figure out what twice as fast means. And then kind of the requirements here. This is where it says you can't change the items class, the item class. So we don't want to make any changes to those. And I kind of viewed this also like there's a method, this update quality method, which I'll show in a minute. I kind of assume that's like an API, or that can't change. If we change that, it's going to break the system. So that signature for this method has to stay the same. So no mucking with that. And then of course, there's a last minute clarification down below. So these requirements can actually be refactored if you needed to. Okay. So that's the gist of that. So, all right. So here we are. Here's the Gilded Rose actual project here. It's a pretty small project, just because again it's a kata, so there's not a lot going on. There's the Gilded Rose class. So this is the main class. This is the update quality method that they were talking about that we can't change the signature of. And I also assume we can't change the signature of the constructor. So there has to be a constructor for this that takes a list of items. And there's update quality. This is private. So they say not to touch this, and we actually won't. But maybe there is, we could make some changes to this if we had to. Probably. And of course, anything in the method is fair game, and we can create other methods and stuff like that. So, and you can kind of see this. It's kind of ugly. All right. Oh, do I need to make this a little bigger? Let me see here. What is zoom again? There we go. Sure. There we go. That's probably a little easier to see on the video. All right, you can see the hard-coded items and stuff like that. So if we go look at the item class, maybe this kind of simulating coming from a database, or this is like a Pojo or Poco object, or something you get from an API. It's almost like a structure. Like you have a name, the cell-in, and the quality. So these are integers, and that's just a string. And the program. So this we just kind of assume is some sort of test input or something that comes from. I don't know, maybe this is the values that we have the test with, or the known values. So it's really simple. It just creates a bunch of test items and then spits them out in a format here, which we'll see in a minute. And here's the new item that we have to add, the conjured manna cake. So, and then we look at, luckily this project actually one thing I want to say before is often when you see a method that's ugly, and there's a class like this Gilded Rose class, in real life projects, this is often like 1,000-line method or class with like a ton of methods that don't belong in it. It's not just one ugly method. There's usually a ton of other ugly methods in here. So I kind of made that assumption, at least for my case, because that's usually what I see. Because I'm going to assume this is like 1,000-line class that is just gross. And there's one method we have to update. All this gross logic is in here. Okay, but sorry. Let's. So we have two types of tests. We have the unit test, which says fix me. So this will actually fail. We'll see this in a second. And this test is just to kind of get a testing framework set up so that you can play around with it. But the other nice thing is, excuse me, It simulates something I actually see in real life a lot of times when you take over a new project from someone, is you will find tests that are ignored or failing. And so you're kind of wondering, this is I'll clear it. Oop. Oh, that's fine. I was just gonna say, I just noticed on the right, there's all my, like, how do I reset my Git repository from the AI there? That's fine, it can stay there. But yeah, sorry, I was saying that oftentimes the test will fail or the tests are already ignored, and then you have to figure out, is this a real test, or did the person, whoever before, like, do I need to fix this test, or is this test doesn't make any sense anymore? Stuff like that. And the other test we have is this approval test. And what this, you can think of this as like an integration test or a system test. And what this does is it basically runs the application for 30 days. That's what this 30 means. And it will output it, and then it verifies it with an existing. So this is what I like to think of this as what the application currently outputs. So you'll get all of this. So if you had a conjured mana cake right now, which is incorrect, this is what you would get. Assuming there's no conjured mana cake, you would get everything from above. So an approval test or a system test is very useful. Like, you can't really refactor code without having tests, because the tests kind of guarantee you that the system hasn't changed. If you didn't have some sort of automated tests, then you would be manually doing testing after you're refactoring, which can be very time consuming, very difficult. With the automated tests, you can make small refactors and then make sure you didn't break anything, and then make another small refactor, another small change, and make sure you didn't break anything. So with this in mind, let's run this, or let's build it. So I'm building it now. And I don't have those set up yet. Okay. So it's built. So usually, oftentimes, the first thing when you get a new application, you have to build the thing, make sure everything builds. That's great. Let's run these tests. So run the tests. All right, so one failed. And unsurprisingly, it's the one that said fix me. The approval test passed, which is great. But this one fails. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to set up this continuous integration testing. And what that does is every time we build the application, it will run the tests. So and the other thing let's check how the coverage for the tests. So this is kind of another thing you might want to do when you inherit a new project. There's our test coverage. Oh, it's so big, or the text is so big. Oh, why is it? Sorry, there we go. All right, so it looks like our coverage is actually really good. So, yeah, can't really complain about that. 83%, this Gilded Rose test. Oh, there's probably, yeah, the food test. I don't know, maybe, oh yeah, because it maybe, I don't know, because the test fails, it doesn't get to everything. So, but the important part is all of these pass, which is not guarantee that the tests are any good, but it is a good sign that you got 100% coverage in here. So we want to keep that 100% coverage as we muck with stuff. So, all right. So the first thing we're going to do, I'll try to step through this. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll try to step through this as quickly as I can. So we'll try to step through this again. First thing I do if I got a bunch of failing tests is, unless there's I see something right away that should say fix it, I'm just going to ignore it. So I'm just going to ignore these tests. And then, let's create, actually we got to do a couple things here. Let's go here. Let's create a new branch. Add conjured item. Okay, and then you're going to notice we're going to do lots of little check-ins. So if you want to follow along too, here, if we go here and we go look at the branches, let's add conjured item here. So you'll see this up to until November 14th is all on main. That's kind of the setup, but here's all the refactoring. So you'll see it's a bunch of small little steps. which is what we want. We don't want one kind of big change. And the nice thing about doing it this way is oftentimes refactoring will be one, like after you're done refactoring, when you do the PR, it's going to look like a big change to someone, like, oh, you changed the name and it touched like 10 files. Plus you move some methods around. It looks like a huge change and people get it's really hard to review. But if you tell them just to look at the steps that you took, that can help with the review process. They can go to each individual step, right? Where it's just, oh, I disabled this. That's all I did. Like I got rid of this and then I updated the verified text. So it's kind of a bunch of small little changes that are easy to parse and easy to follow along. Tells like a little story. And the other nice thing is we'll do all these small commits because we'll do these small commits so that if we screw something up, then we can always go back. So, and then we'll just use the AI just to generate messages because it'll just be faster than me typing them in there. And they're mostly pretty good. And if there's a funny one comes up, then we can all have a good laugh. Okay, so I ignore that test. The second thing I'm going to do is in the program, there we are, is here. I don't really like the fact that this is here. I would much rather have my output be, like I'm going to kind of assume they haven't added conjured mana cake, so I want my output to be what the application currently does, not an incorrect version of what it's trying to do. So that's in my case. Maybe if this was like a database and like they already added this to the database and we're already pulling it, then maybe I'd have to live with it. But in this case, I don't have to. So I'll just comment that out. And then I also need to update this text here, which has the sell-in, the quality, and the name. So conjure mana cake needs to go away. So the easiest way to do that is in the terminal here, is just to run. Oh, we didn't run the application, actually. It was something we should have done when we first got it, but we'll do it now. Gilded Rose, bin debug. And it's for 30 days, if you remember the program. And let's just pipe this out to so let's just put that out to there. Oh, actually, before I do that, I need to actually build this thing. So let's build it. And this is actually going to fit. Oh, the other thing we should do too. So, right, because right now, after we remove that, the tests are going to fail because conjured mana cake no longer exists. So you can see here and here. So that's the other thing we should have done, is we should have mucked around with the code to make sure that that test was actually working. So let's continue with that, but then we'll test it real quick after. So let's spit that out. And now the test should all pass. So let me go to the tests here. I don't need to rebuild anything. I need to go to the tests and run them all. Okay, so now they all pass. And then but let's just make sure that these tests are actually doing something. So let's just go change, like, I don't know, any of these. What happens if I change this one? And then we rebuild and it runs a test. Hopefully this will fail. Right, so this failed. Okay, so it looks like these tests are actually doing something. Yeah, it started at 49 instead of 50. Or sorry, I didn't cap the quality at 50. Capped it at 49. Okay, so good. Looks like those tests are doing something. Oops. There we go. Ah, sorry, fat fingered that. Okay, let's get this to build. And hopefully these all pass, and then we can commit this. So, yeah, okay. I was going to say that file will disappear. I probably should add to the ignore, but oh well. Okay, commit message. Yeah, okay, cool. So that looks good. So, So the first couple of things we're going to fix here, now that we're sure the application works, is the IDE is telling us, like, giving us a couple warnings right off the get-go. Like, it's got these two here. So this is private. So this becomes like, if this is a really big method and lots of things are using items. Oh, I guess a couple things. So if I'm adding, before I get too deep into this, if I'm adding this new conjured mana item, right here, let's do this. So basically, if I need to, where's collapse all? There we are. So if I need to add a new conjured mana item, I'm going to look to see, okay, I see this. I'm going to see that, okay, now I have update quality. And what does update quality do? Okay, it's got this for loop that loops over every item that got passed in and does something to them. And ideally, you know, kind of in my head, at least what I'd want to see if item is this, then do this. If item is that, do that. But, or like almost like a switch statement. Like a switch statement here would be fantastic. Like switched item name. If hbree, do this. If, and then you have an else for everything else. But of course, everything is all mixed together and all gross and disgusting. So, so yeah, this, kind of looking at this, it's like, oh, how would I add conjured? Like, like what is a normal item? Like it becomes really hard to figure any of this out really quickly. It becomes really hard. So like, how would I add it? So kind of the, you know, because I'm under a tight deadline and I don't want to make things worse. So I don't want to go in here and I don't want to find all the else statements and add another, if it's not conjured or something like that, like that's gross. What I would love to do is do something like this, right? If conjured item, right, do the thing, and then return. Like this would be a quick and easy fix. But this is not even, this is not like a super nice way to do it either. So, but this is kind of what we're aiming for. So I'd want to do something like this, and then eventually I'd want to set this up so that even this logic, I'm not even going to worry. I'm not even going to worry about this. Like this works. I'm going to treat it as a giant function, as a, you know, like this block of code I'm not going to edit, or if I am going to make some edits to it, but they're just going to be minor edits. I'm not going to make any major changes to this logic. I'm going to make small changes just to make my life a little easier and to make it easier to read. But I'm not going to try to change this logic at all. And I'm just going to try and set up something like this, but a little bit cleaner than just adding to this. This is not the campsite rule here. But anyway, that's what we're going to try and do. So, first things, let's make this method. Let's do a couple things to clean up this method that are low risk. Like I don't want to break any existing code, but I can make some easy low risk changes. So like this one here, thanks to the IDE, right? Like the IDE will encourage these or point out some of these low risk changes that I can make, right? So I can make those. Like that was pretty easy. And then I can run, build everything, and the test should all. So if the tests fail, it'll point it out to me. If you see this little green dot and everything's fine, or if nothing pops up, then everything's fine. So that's a nice easy fix. What's another one that it's recommending? Oh, this. So I can just rename that. That's not a big deal. What is this one? Oh, it's recommending convert this to a private. So this was something I had to look up, right? It's like a new feature in C#. So that's a nice easy fix. There we go. We actually removed some lines of code. And we can build this again. Again, this is a low risk change. Not too worried about it. The IDE is taking care of it. And this is another kind of low risk one. Convert. Yeah, so we're going to make this a for each. So there we go. So rather than item with it as an array, now we just have a nice for each loop. Okay, so that was all kind of low risk changes. Everything still works. That's good. Let's commit that. Yeah, it's fine. We'll just, skip writing nice messages. All right, so those are low risk changes. Again, I want to treat this as something I don't want to muck with too much. But low risk changes like this are nice and easy to make. So a couple other things you notice. Let's leave things a little bit nicer for other people. Another one is we can fix these compound assignments. We can fix all of them in the entire file. So there we go. We fixed them all. So that's, again, it's a little easier to read. It's a really low risk change. We have all our tests that'll verify it. So let's just do that. Okay. And probably one of the biggest pains, like we got this gross constant. So like, let's get rid of some of those. So yeah, let's excuse me. Let's create a variable for this. Let's create all age Bree, and then we can actually make that a constant. And then, so for those who don't know too, like JetBrains has this Alt Enter or whatever keyboard combination you have. It's just kind of context of where you're at. And so I just keep hitting that and I get this nice menu of things to do. So let's move that here. And then I think we can even move this. Oh, maybe it won't let us move it out of there. So we could even move it out of here. So we can move it up there. There, we can make that private. Oh, it already was private, but there. So that we kind of want to do that, and let's do that with all the rest of these here. So, will this put it as a variable? I don't remember now. Nope. Did it get stuck? Oop, no, I don't want that. Sorry, fat fingered that one. Let's try that again. I thought there was a way to, when's it refactor this? Oh, there we are. That's what I wanted. Let's introduce a field. Let's introduce a constant. We'll make it private. There we go. And let's do this last constant. We might as well. So I can just go right to here. There's a field. All three occurrences. We'll make it a constant. All right, so there. Now they all nicely live up there. So that looks a bit better too. A little more readable. So like even if we stopped right now, let's build this to make sure it works. We've made things a little bit better for everyone. Okay, so there we go. So, so one thing you notice too, one other nice way to look, like if we do our collapse all again. So my plan was to get, if you remember, was to get an if kind of a, you know, if it's if conjured right here, right? If that's what I wanted. But before we do that, we can probably, like another low risk change is we could pull all this out into its own method. Let's just call it update item. It is updating the quality in the cell to, sure, let's call, Selling. So let's just call it that. All right, so let's extract that. So now you can see we have our update quality. It's got the for loop, and it's moved all this code into its own method. Again, this is a low risk change because we used the automatic refactoring tools of our IDE. And boom, all our tests still pass. And so one thing, like this is kind of a long name, but I kind of like long names that describe what a method does, because if it's got a long goofy name like that, it makes you think like, something else needs to be done with it. So don't be afraid to have long names like that. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is, sorry, give me 1 second here. Bring up my notes again here. All right, so because I made this assumption that this Gilded Rose class is already like thousands of lines long, that this probably, like I don't want to add more code to this already like 1,000-line class, which this probably is. And besides, this probably doesn't belong in the Gilded Rose class. We should probably create another class that deals with updating the quality in the sell-in. And if we look at the requirements, it was kind of an end of day calculation. So I think moving this to its own class, let's go factor this. We'll extract this to another class. Let's call this end of day calculator. And then we also need to move these 3 things. That's what this is telling us here. Oh, why can't I pick anything? Oh, did it freeze on me again? Ugh, I've had trouble with this in the past, so let's try this one more time. Let's extract to a class. End of day calculate. Well, actually, there. Let's stick with what I call it actually update item. Sorry, item updater class. Item updater dater. And then let's move. Okay. Oh, what's going on? Oh, that's really annoying. Okay, well, I have to do this manually. Okay, try one more time. At least on the Mac when I did it, it didn't have this much problems. Okay, it's its own. No, it just. Oh, okay. All right, well, let's manually do this one. So to manually move to a new class, we need to create the class first. So call this item updater, dater. Okay. And then what you do is you basically take this whole method and you put it in there. In this case, we'll have to make it public. And it's also going to require us to copy these. So this is where the automatic refactoring would have been nice. I don't know why it's freaking out on my, maybe because I'm using Windows subsystems. So we can move these out of here. Oops. Put them in here. There we go. And now this one, now that we've moved those, we can get rid of this method and basically just change it to call the method like this. So now we're calling a new method. Okay, and that works. That's good. So that's kind of the way you move a method. And then to get rid of this, you just find all the places where this is used. So it's really just one, just here. And you update those with the new call to the method. And then so now if we run this, build that, it should work. And you can see this one's not find usages, not used anywhere. So that means we can get rid of it. All right, let's make sure that all works. So now we have, again, we've left things nicer than they were. We've moved code out of this probably like 1,000-line class into its own class, which item updater is not a great name, but we'll fix that in a little bit. But it's there now. So let's commit that. Holy, what is going on here? Oh, I'm going to have to reopen my solution here. All right, sorry about that. Let's try this again. Ah, not Firefox, Rider. Browse without missing a beat, thanks. Where's my Rider window? There we are. All right, should appear. Okay, good. Did appear in here again. Apparently the extract class just crashes hard on Windows using WSL. That works fine on the Mac. Oh, how am I doing for time? Oh, it's already 50 minutes. Wow, I really will have to cut back on some of this presentation here. Okay, so we got this. Okay, good. Now I can get all this and this. Boom, boom. I should just quickly build this just to make sure. Okay. Done. So again, we haven't made any, these are pretty low-risk changes. We haven't made any other major changes, and we haven't really changed this logic. So again, this is pretty low risk. We haven't done anything. We've just kind of made things a little nicer. So now let's take a look at, oh, what can we do here? We can, I can make this static for now. So if we ever want, so the nice thing about using these automatic refactoring is like people are like, oh no, static class is super bad. But right now they don't need to be anything else but static. So let's just leave it as static. And in the future, if we need to change it, it's a pretty quick change. So. All right, so there we go. What are these three squigglies? Oh, just the typos and words. Okay, so we're fine with those. So let's take a look here now. So we have all these. That's good. So the next thing I want to do is I want to figure out. So if we remember the requirements, let's bring those up again. A conjured item degrades in quality twice as fast as normal items. It doesn't quite say here how much they go down in, so let's figure out how much. I think it's just one, but let's verify that by looking at the code and then writing some tests for it. So if we go look here, let's do our collapse all again. I like this collapse all and then opening up these blocks. I find this is a good way to see like high level logic about what is going on. Because if you just open everything, it can get really confusing. So, but here we can see, so we're going to assume normal item is not HB, backstage pass, or sulfurous. So it's not HB and it's not a backstage pass, then, so else, okay. So we want to go inside this if statement. And if the quality is greater than 0, and it's not the sulfurous, then we so we decrement the quality by 1 here. If we go look at this second, and this else we can ignore because it's going to be either HB or this. Another trick you could do to help understand this is we can go invert this if we wanted to. So if it's HB or this, I'm a little leery about like actually committing this change, but it could help us understand the code a little bit better. So if we wanted to do it that way, that's another way. So if it's not here, then again, quality -1. And now we can take a look at this. Okay, so it's not. So if we remember, sulfurous doesn't have a sell and date. It's always valuable, but everything else, the sell and date goes down by 1. And if we look here, oh, we've got a little warning here. What's this? Invert if. Oh, okay. So if the sell-in is greater than 0, so this made it a lot easier to understand. So don't do anything. Otherwise, if it's not aged, let's invert this one again, because again, that's hard to read. Okay, so if it's aged brie, then the quality goes down by 50. Okay, so we don't care. It's aged brie, we don't care. Skip that. Else, if it's not a oh my God, not a okay, so if it's not a backstage pass, and if the quality is greater, and it's not, okay, it's really, so quality goes to, so it's going to go down by 2. That's where the double, what's the requirements? Twice as fast. So, okay, so it was 1. If it's past the sell-in date, because that's here, it's going to go down twice. Okay, so we were right. So it's going to go down by 1. At least that's what we think it's going to do. We've looked at the code. We're pretty sure that's what it does. Let's undo this change. And let's add some tests. So just for this, okay, so let's add, I don't know, you people, my videos are always super long. Let's add a test. So let's no item, updater tests. So we'll have to using n, oh yeah, we'll have to use the Gilded Rose Kata and using n unit framework. Okay. All right, so we got a test here. So we want to test public void. What did we call? So let's split this. Split right. Oh God, that's such a huge name. Right, so that's the name of the method, and we want to test before sell in date, and in this case we're going to want to do dim or sort of var. I used to working in bb.net. Test item equals new test. New item, sure, but I don't want it foo. Let's just call it normal item. And I like to do my tests that are right on the edge. So we want to sell in 1 day, like 0. What was that check here? If sell-in is less than 0, yeah. Okay, so if it's less than 0, so we want to do 1. Enter quantity 10, that's fine. And then let's call the test. So item updater. Okay, fill it in for us. So we'll do the test. And then let's see what we got. It's, oh, okay. So that's pretty good. It's probably remembering what I've done before. Let's check the sell-in should be 0 and the quantity should be 9. All right, let's build that and see if that works. Let's actually bring up our tests here. Oh, we need to, because I kind of wish it remembered. Okay, let's run all these tests. Okay, so they all passed. It's good. Let's cover them. Make sure our coverage is still good. Okay, we're still at 95%. Fantastic. Okay. So that's all good. Let's just move that. Let's get rid of that for a little bit. Let's make sure that's actually doing what we want. We put this to 2. Test should now fail. Oh yeah, right. It's going to bring up. Okay. Okay, so the important one, did our new unit test fail? Yes, it did. Okay, so that's what we wanted. Perfect. We'll reset that. And let's just create a second test, which is the after cell and date. So in this case, we want 0. And this should be 8. No, 8. There we go. Oh, and this should be -1 because selling can go less. So let's try that. Okay, so that works. But the interesting thing is if we change this one, the second test should pass. So let's confirm that. Oh yeah, it's going to pop up our window here. Oh, both of them failed. Is that... Oh yeah, sorry, both of them will fail. If I change just the second one, okay, so if I undo this, if I change the second one to quality, just the second one should fail. Yeah, it doesn't start failing until it passes it. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so just the one succeeded, the one failed. Perfect. All right, so now we're reasonably sure that the quality that we have we figured out what normal quality does. And we kind of don't care about HB or backstage passes and all that stuff because we look at the requirements. They just degrade twice as fast as normal items. So we know what normal items do now. That's great. So let's commit that change. Okay, and so it's about here that I'm like, I'm not really liking some of the names for things, like this item updater. It's kind of not a great name. So let's rename this to, oops. I renamed it to end of day calculator. All right. And the nice thing about if we do these renames is it's going to find, like it found related tests and stuff, so it's going to rename all of those, which is great. So if I go look, so this is where I highly recommend using an IDE or other tools that let you rename it. So if you notice, it actually renamed our files for us. So we renamed this, but it also renamed this file. The only thing it didn't do is it didn't, oh yeah, it did rename that, the class. And then let's rename this item. So if we rename this, probably just update now. We don't need to. That's probably pretty good. Unfortunately, this one doesn't go in here and rename our test for us, which is kind of unfortunate. So we have to manually go in and clean these up. And then this one. So just clean those up. Let's run this. Make sure everything's still, oh, I don't want a breakpoint there. Make sure everything still passes. Okay, and now we can. All right, so there, now we got that nicely renamed. So that's not a bad idea. So this is end of day calculator, and it'll update the items. It'll update the item, so that's good. So remember, we're trying, so we've got this set up. So now we're trying to get this like kind of switch like statement going in here. So let's add, so before I even add that, let's just add mana cakes in here. So if I just did if item dot name equals conjured mana cake, I don't know, and we'll just, for now we'll just return. We won't do anything. We'll have to add some logic in there. So let's add some tests to do that as well. Update. Oh, actually, I just realized we should rename these. These are normal items. Normal item. I forgot to put that part in there. Normal item. This is going to be a conjured item before sell-in date. Let's see, does it? Okay, so first things we need to make this conjured mana cake. Oh, I should come back. That was pretty much what I wanted. Oh, that's super sad now. Okay, let's just cut and paste this because it's going to be pretty much the same. Conjured mana cake. Conjured mana cake. All right, so this is before the sell-in date. So sell-in should be 1. Sure, let's see if the quality of 10. And we want the sell-in to be 0. And if it goes double, it should, I guess it should be 8. Right? Okay, so let's just run this test, and it should fail. Right, perfect. Fails. Now, right, we'll do a little TDD. So now we can run this as, so we can go item dot sell in minus equals 1, and then item dot quality minus equals 2. Now if we run it, it should pass. Oh, oh, I got rid of the return. There we go. It's kind of ugly again, you know, just return it. Okay, now it passes. It's not like, you can eventually refactor this to return items if you want, but for now we're not going to worry about that. All right, so test public void update after sell-in date. Let's see if it got it right. -1 and 6. All right, so now this test should fail. So that looks right. Cool. And now if we go here, so if item dot sell in is less, sure, let's do greater than or equal to, is greater than 0, else -4. So again, it's not the nicest way to write it, but we just want to get it working. And notice how we haven't changed any of this convoluted logic here. Oh, I got an issue somewhere. Before sell-in date is now failing. Oh, this needs to be greater than or equal to. Oops, not plus, equal to. Right, because if you look at this logic, it decrements the quality and then decrements it again, the sell-in date, and then checks it. Okay. I think, right? This is why we're writing our test here. Let's see. Okay, so that's good. So if it's past the sell-in date, okay, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's commit that. It's working. It's not great, but it's working. So let's commit it. So, you know, technically we could almost release this now. Oh, there's actually one test we don't have here. We don't check that quality is less than 0. So quality can go less than 0, and that's a problem. So actually, if I'm looking at my notes, I didn't realize that till a bit later, but I remembered it now. So let's add it now. Let's do this now. So conjured item. Less than 0 quality. Okay, so now if we take our, so we need this to be, it doesn't really matter, 0, and say this is only 1, it should be set to 0. Okay, let's see. So this test again should fail. Right, fails, great. Now let's if item quality less than 0. Yeah, just do that. I should probably put braces around that. Okay. Cool. So that all seems to be working. Cool. So let's commit that. Boom, done. And now, okay, now let's extract this. So this is kind of, or sorry, now let's, so it's working for a unit test. Let's make sure it's also working for the approval test. So let's update our approval test now. So if you remember, that was in this here. So we got rid of the conjured manna cake. So let's add that back in. Okay, let's add one here, and then we're going to add 2. What am I thinking? Oh, we need a comma there. Okay. So this one that never goes past the sell-in date, and this one that does go past the sell-in date, right? So if it's going to go, yeah. So we got these 2 in here. So now if we run this test will fail. Which we wanted to, yeah. Well, let's take a look to see what we've got dumped in there. Oh, so this is when I originally did it. This is when I noticed that the quality, which is the third number, went less than 0. I'm cheating a little bit here. So we could see 3 and 6. Okay. 2 and 4. So that's good. 4 and 18. That looks good. 1 and 4. 1 and 2. That looks good. 3 and 16. That's good. 0 and 0. Okay, so once this is 0, it should stay at 0. That's good. Now it's down to 12. Now it's down to 10. 6, 2, oh, all right, we were seeing if it jumped twice. So it went to 10. Now it's past the sell-in date. It should jump by 2. Yeah, so there we go. Right, because we have this 10 and, oh yeah, so we can compare this kind of 10 and 20 up here, this dexterity vest. Oh, maybe I should change that to 10 just so it compares to the dexterity vest. Let's do that. Oh, no, but then, will it pass the sell-in date? Yeah, that'll still work, I think. Let's do that. I like that idea better. Oh no, that's not going to work. It's not what I want because it won't be it'll never get past 0. So it should be always 2 less. Or sorry. Yeah, no, let's leave my other one there. 5. Okay. All right, so now we got a test for that. So now we have to update the approval. All right, so what we can do here is we can copy this and just put it into here. Save that. Oh, and then we have to manually rerun all the tests. All right, and now everything passes again. Now if we looked at this received, should match the verified. Okay, so now we have an approval test for setup, which is good. Again, you could think of this as a system test or an integration test. So if this was a checkout procedure and you added, maybe you were just checking out credit cards and you had to add PayPal. Now you've added PayPal and you add some unit tests for the PayPal checkout, and now you created an approval test or a system test for PayPal, and now it's all working. All right, so I'm pretty, like, we could release this right now. Good, like, boom, production, good. If we had to, we could release now, but there's a couple other things. Again, I've been really trying hard to avoid changing this because this is gross, and maybe we'll accidentally introduce a bug. This is something we could refactor later in life, but let's start setting up. So kind of, like I said, I was thinking what I would do in real life, IRL, with the real client. I wouldn't refactor all that right away. That would be something I might do later, but I would kind of set up that refactoring. So that's what the next couple steps would be. So let's extract, let's pull all this logic out to its own method. So we can do that here. Extract method, there it is. Let's call this update conjured. Okay. Oops. Okay. Where did it put it? Oh, so there it is. Okay, it's down here. Oh yeah, we don't need this return anymore. This return still has to stay there, so let's just... oh, whoops. Before I do that, oh, dang it. Okay, before I forgot to commit. So let's just quickly undo this. Build that. Make sure. Yep, okay. Generate a message. Of course, we'd be inspecting those messages a lot closer. All right, okay, let's pull this out again. I love the fact that I even included the return, but it was smart enough to know that that was a bad idea when I tried to extract that method. So let's do update conjured, which I can never spell. Okay, there we go. If we go here, again, we don't need this return. All right, now we can build that to see if it works. All right, so that's good. So we're getting there. And then what else? So we moved it here. We could clean this up a little bit too. Like this is kind of fugly. So we can shorten that a little bit. I don't want to do that. Whoops. Yeah, I guess we can leave. Sorry, what am I? You could put this as a one-liner too. That's what I was looking to do. I don't know why that refactoring just doesn't exist. All right, so right now it's just a, I don't know, didn't change it too much, and so we're kind of setting ourselves up to, like, if we ever, it did extract normal items, like we have update conjured, we could have update normal, and then maybe update conjured would eventually change to call update normal and then multiply those results by 2. It's what we could do eventually. And for now, we'll just extract that, clean that up a little bit. Oh yeah, let's make sure everything still works. Okay. And there's, right, so now we have that. We can, like, let's set this up a little bit more. Let's move all this gross logic to its own method. So let's do that too. I think I have everything selected properly there. Let's see. Extract method. So let's update Brie. No, how do I spell Brie? I don't even know. Can I scroll up to see? Update Brie. Backstage solve for us. Yeah, so again, having, well, I guess it would be normal in there somewhere too. Let's put normal. So having a goofy name like this, really, like, I don't mind leaving this big name, because then when people see it, they're like, what the hell? But at least it's describing, excuse me, what this gross method does. And it's kind of like screams like this needs to be refactored in the future. You could also put some comments above it there. So now we have this. Let's make sure that works. Okay, and then we can obviously, like, let's set this up as a switch statement that we were looking for. So well, here, let's do this a little bit better so we can, instead of returning, I wonder, does it have an automatic refactoring to get rid of the return? No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, there's a convert to switch statement, but let's set that up. So let's get rid of this, else. All right. Okay, so everything still passes, and then we should be able to convert this to a switch statement. So now we're kind of getting to this is what we wanted. So we've kind of set ourselves up for the future. So now we can get conjured manna cakes out the door, but we could also get this as well. Oh, we should extract that in a minute, but let's do small change at a time here. Yeah, noise. All right, so let's do the same we did with all these other ones. Introduce a field, constant, done. Again, we'll just build it, make sure it works. Okay, and now the other thing I'd want to do to set us up sort of the future, like, we cut this hard code as conjured manna cake. They never really said what a manna, like how do you determine a conjured item? So what we can do is we can isolate the fact, like, we're not checking just this name. We're going to actually we're gonna do a check to make sure that it's actually what we want it to be. So like we want to change this to oh, how did I do this? Oh, let's try and match what I did here. All right, so can I? Oh, I guess I just left it as an if statement. That's why. So we could do. Well, let's deviate a little bit from what we got in source code. So let's make this basically an enum is what we want to do, right? Like we want this to return. Yeah. So we want to turn this into, yeah, so not, not what I did in my example there. So what's the best way to do this? So we want this to be an enum now. So let us change this to be, so public static bool is conjured. I'll take an item. And then it could go if return item dot name equals conjured banana cake. Oh, this needs to be this. Okay. So, well, okay, let's just switch this back. So again, this is why I practice. Eventually it'd be nice to have a switch statement, but let's just convert this back to an if statement. There we go, if statement. So this refactoring is so nice. You can just like click it like boom, boom, back and forth. And then I can replace this with is conjured mana item, then do this. So we don't quite got a switch statement. I forgot that I didn't get that far. But at least we have this. Like you have if, and then you can have an else, if, is, whatever. Like that's pretty easy to understand. And you can always extract that to a factory pattern or whatever once you start seeing that type of thing in there. Oh, this could be private. Yep. And there we go. So yeah, that's where I'm going to kind of leave it because it's been pretty long already. This is also where I left it too when I was practicing. But I think that's pretty good. Like I'm pretty happy with this. We've got the, oh sure, let's commit this before I forget. We've gotten, you know, in a reasonable amount of time, we were able to get, I'll just make sure everything works still too. We were able to get the conjured mana cake in there, but we've also set ourselves up for success at a later date. So like I'm assuming they want conjured mana cake, but maybe later on there's going to be conjured, I don't know, bananas or something in there, right? We've set ourselves up to be able to figure out with this method, we can easily update just this method to figure out if things are conjured or not. Because we actually ideally it'd be nice if item had like the type that it returned, but it doesn't. So I'm assuming we'll have to either keep reading that from the name or something gross like that. And we've also set ourselves up if we wanted to do more refactoring. So like if you follow along with this and you're like, oh, I want to keep going, like maybe the rules for aged brie and stuff are going to change. And if they are, then that's when you would probably come in here and start refactoring this. Or like what might happen is normal items all change. And update conjured depends on normal items, right? It's like 2 times a normal item. In that case, you would come in here and start refactoring this method. But we set ourselves up so that you can do some refactoring and start extracting, like maybe you're going to yank Brie out of here or something like that. And then once you get Brie out of there, you could maybe, yank out Backstage Pass. Or maybe there's going to be other concerts coming up. Right now, we're stuck with this Backstage Pass. But because we set up this kind of pattern of is conjured, you could even just go in here and just replace this with the is Backstage Pass, right? Like we could go in and replace all of these. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's look at what's our test coverage? It's 96. And then we should, I guess the last thing we should do, we'd get rid of this failing test because we don't need this. And yeah, so that's how I would I don't know, it's kind of an example of how I would refactor the Gilded Rose, assuming that I needed to get the mana cake in their stat, but I didn't have to make any other immediate changes to other stuff. So now once this is in production, we've got a little bit of slack time, right? We've proved. The other nice thing about doing this, like in real life, is that a client usually hires me or like a consultant or something like that because they want results right away. They never plan ahead and call like, hey, in 6 months, can you come do something? Like I said at the beginning, they're calling because they want some results right away. So able to come in and do this and be like, a week later, be like, hey, here's a new feature for you. Boom, done. They really appreciate that. And then that gives you some wiggle room to come in and actually clean things up even more. And of course, I try to tell them like, this is a huge mess. Like you need to to make some changes. Can I get to the item class now or something? Or, maybe a different long-term solution would be I would create my own item class and then I pass in this item and just wrap everything. That's another option to do. And then each item is responsible for knowing how to update itself and change the sell-in date. And then eventually too, I would also long-term, I would pull out, like I would not just update the items. I would have methods that return the quality, like you pass in the sell-in and the quality and it returns you those values. Something like that. So, yeah, that's it. So I guess I'll show that last slide I got. Where's this one here? All right, so there. Well, yeah, if you got this far, thank you very much for watching. If you have some feedback for me, you can leave it in the comments below, or again, send an email to ask@SaturdayMP.com. That'd be much appreciated. I also, any constructive feedback, I'm always trying to improve my presenting skills. I know this is done virtually. You can't see me, but pre-recorded, but yeah, so let me know if you have any constructive feedback in that regards. Of course, if you want to learn more, there's some stuff here. You can check out Emily's YouTube channel and stuff. She's got some great refactorings there. Martin Fowler with his book, Understanding Legacy Code, is a great site. And Nicholas is active on Legacy Code Rocks and helps out with MentorCon there. And yeah, Legacy Code Rocks is a great place if you're interested in more refactorings or anything along those lines. Yeah, and I guess finally, if you liked what you saw, do the usual. Oh my God, I feel like such a bum asking for this, but hit the like button, subscribe. Probably the best thing you could do is just share this with others. If you found it useful, just let them know about it. And of course, I also appreciate thank yous. Stuff like that would be great. And then if you have anything you'd like me to do a video on in the future, let me know. No one asked for anything right now, so if you ask for something, I'll probably do it. It's not a lot of competition. So yeah, so thank you again, everyone, for watching. I hope you have, it's snowing here right now, and which I really appreciate because I'm looking forward to go skiing. So I hope you have a nice kind of fluffy snow day. It's not windy and knocking trees down. It's not super cold, just light fluffy snow gently falling from the sky. So take care, everyone, and I will catch you later. Bye.